Okay, so we have our next speakers. The title of the presentation is Gender Models in Reader Plans in Peru, and her name is Rosalie León Chiliota.
Hola. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Hippie, for the opportunity to share my research. My name is Rosalie León Chiliota, and I'm a doctoral student at Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona. Today, I'm going to tell you about one of the ways we learn to behave in society and how we assimilate what is expected of us as men and women in a particular context. This is called socialization. This should work. Sorry. Okay. And in the next couple of minutes, I will tell you about one of the components of socialization, the school agent of socialization, and more precisely, children's literature read in Peruvian primary school reader plans. While my research focuses on Peru, the same grid of analysis I'm creating for my thesis can be used to assess virtually any reader plan or group of books. A reader plan, by the way, is the group of books a student must read throughout a whole school year. But before I continue, let me tell you about how my project was born. A few years ago, I had to evaluate the children's catalog for a reader plan in a publishing house, and I noticed that there were almost no women protagonists, and the few that did appear were projected in traditional gender roles, such as housewives or damsels in distress. So I asked myself, do the books we read in school condition how we reproduce gender? But to actually answer this question, I had to read some of the books read in Peruvian reader plans and devise a way to evaluate the gender representation in them. So I chose a corpus of a sample of 88 books from 3 different sources. Books that have received awards in Peru, best-selling children's novel of the 3 biggest publishing houses in the country, and the reader plan of 2 public schools that have been known to do a good job in that area. And to analyze this corpus, I created a data recollection tool based on multiple previous studies and my own work experience. In this tool, I had 63 variables divided into 4 main categories. The first one included the extra-textual elements that surround a book but have little to do with the story told, like the name and gender of the authors and illustrators, the thematic of the books, and the genre they belong to. Now, the second category had variables that revolved around the paratext, which go hand in hand with the story told, like the book covers, their illustration, or the book titles. Now, the third category is the biggest one, where I assess the gender models in the main and secondary character representations through their personality, occupations, behaviors, etc. And last but not least, I have the narrative category, which is the one who basically introduces the young reader to the world in each novel. So, last year, I started coding some of the variables in the whole corpus and did a trial run with 10% of the sample. And it led me with some very interesting results. For example, most of the books were written by male authors, which inevitably implicates a reduced female perspective. And just look at how many book titles have female characters in them. 9 out of 88 books, which is a dramatic invisibilization of women and can lead girls to believe they don't matter enough to be featured in book titles. Now, when I did the trial run, I was able to do some crosstabs. That is, put together 2 or more variables to be able to get some conclusions. And while the partial results told me that traditional gender roles and models were still predominant in Peruvian literature, there is a slight indication of change with both male and females crossing traditional gender lines to a more balanced and equal representation. And this is what I'm aiming at with my research, to be able to assess the gender representation in a reader plan through the use of my grid, so we can, the gender perspective can be taken into account when choosing what our children will read in schools. In few words, to contribute to the building of a more egalitarian and fairer world. Wouldn't you? Thank you very much for your attention.